let's discuss the different types of company structures that you can have, mainly sole proprietorships, general partnerships, limited partnerships, limited liability companies, S corporations, and C corporations. So, in terms of a sole proprietorship, you are the business. I mean, you're pretty much your tax ID is the same as the business's. So you and the business are one and the same. So that's very, very simple from a tax filing perspective, right? But the key problem with that is unlimited liability, right? Because if something goes wrong, you can get sued for your personal assets, which is a serious problem. So you can get away with using a sole proprietorship for kind of low risk businesses where there's smaller chance of something going horribly wrong. Like, for tutoring, I still use an LLC, even though I could use a sole prop if I wanted to, because of just the risk factor. But there's other benefits to having to having an LLC. But with sole props, I remember I had a student who told me that his friend had created like a meme coin and he put his name as a sole prop. And I'm like, hey man, like when I told him about the unlimited liability, he got scared instantly and trying to get out of the whole situation. But that's just giving an example of the unlimited liability. Then you also have general partnerships. General partnerships is pretty much the same thing as a sole proprietorship. Just obviously a partnership means you need to have two or more people, right? You need to have two or more people. But it's the same concept. It's actually very, very easy to form. But the problem is again, the unlimited liability aspect. Now that takes us next to limited partnerships. So with limited partnerships, you need to have at least one general partner and one limited partner. So the general partner takes all the risk. They have all the liability. The limited partner, as is in the name, has limited liability, which means they're basically what the money they invested is the money that's at risk, right? So, in exchange for that benefit of limited liability, they're not allowed to participate in the day-to-day of the company. So I had a friend of mine who wanted to get involved in, the private equity space, and he actually started off as an LP and started helping them out, and he got reclassified as a GP. Now he wanted that. For some people, they don't want that because now all of a sudden their capital, their entire personal capital is at risk because of the fact that now it's not just you're reclassified. You're not, you're no longer you're no longer a limited partner. The other thing is when it comes to what we call passive income from a limited partnership or even actually an LLC or an S corp, that can only be offset, like passive losses can only be offset against passive gains compared to, with capital losses, you can offset up to 3,000 a year against your ordinary income if there's some left over. But probably for another discussion. So going back to limited partnerships, they're oftentimes used in like, private equity, VC, direct participation programs because it seemed it's naturally a structure that makes sense because, as a limited partner, I'm happy to know that the GPs are kind of on the hook and they're also the last to get paid. So, captain goes down with the ship. So it's in their interest to make sure that everything runs smooth. But they can choose to listen to, what the LPs say, or they can do their own thing. That's the benefit of being a GP. Now, that brings us next to limited liability companies. Limited liability companies, that's what I use for tutoring. It's pretty easy to set up. They're the owners are called members of the LLC. You have what's called flow-through taxation. Same thing with all the other ones that I mentioned, meaning that, you don't pay corporate tax. It just flows through directly to the owners. If it's a single person LLC, if there's no, beneficiary dies with the owner, what else? Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple, very, very common. A lot of people just start LLCs because of just the ultra convenience and the pass-through taxation. That brings us next to S corporations. S corporations, they're kind of the way I see them is they're sort of a hybrid between LLCs and C corps. So with they're They have certain things from the LLC, like they have the benefit of like the flow through with but when it comes they can't they can't issue shares though, LLCs, but S corps can. The only thing is there are certain restrictions and limitations. So you can only have up to 100 U.S. residents as shareholders. So clearly you can't go public because how the heck are you going to do that? You pretty much have to like, sell it to people your shares, and you can only have one class of shares. You can't have multiple share classes, right? So it's almost like a C Corp light, right? Or a cross between a LLC and a C Corp. Also flow through taxation. And also one more thing I wanted to mention is that the K1 partnership gains apply to LPs, LLCs, and S corps. Now, the last one is the C Corps. Pretty much every company that you know is structured as a C Corp. The reason why is that's the most efficient method to raise as much money as possible. So you can have as many shareholders as you want. You can have as many share classes as you want. But the downside is you get double taxed, right? You get hit with corporate taxes, and the company pays taxes before paying dividends, and then you, as as the owner, get dividends, and you still pay taxes on those. Now, obviously, there is a beneficial component that qualified dividends are taxed at what's called long-term capital gains, which is, the highest is going to be 20%. Most people are going to pay 15. Only if you're very wealthy, you're going to pay 20. And there are even people, if you're like, if you make below, I believe it's 50K, you don't even pay anything on long-term capital gains, as opposed to ordinary income, where the highest marginal rate is 37%. So you're talking about half that. So there is certain benefits, but still, if you combine the long-term capital gains plus corporate income taxes, you're still getting double tax. So it's not as great. But there are certain again, there's a big benefit of just being able to raise an infinite amount of money, right? I mean, otherwise, how you going to go public? Can't go public with a C corp, can't go public with, LLC, something like that. I mean, there is like what's called MLPs. They're master limited partnerships. They're limited partnerships that trade on the exchange. But again, really, if you're going to raise money, your best bet is just going through a C corp. So I hope that kind of explains some of that. Listen for more. Thanks.